Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. This week, the National Council of Traditional Rulers of Cameroon endorsed President Paul Biya as their candidate for the upcoming elections in Cameroon. A memo that was signed by over 300 traditional rulers from the 10 regions and handed over to the Minister of Territorial Administration for onward transmission to the head of state, Paul Biya. And equally this week, we equally notice some leaders of some traditional rulers coming to the Ministry of Territorial Administration to publicly declare their support for President Paul Biya. All this happening. Today in the program 360 Degrees, we are looking at the fate of aspiring independent candidates as they are supposed to, as we know, supposed to have the endorsement or the signatories of some elite, including traditional rulers from the 10 regions of the country. And we equally look at the fate of the opposition leader with all this happening. And of course, we try to situate where Cameroon democracy is going with all this happening. You are watching 360 Degrees, and we are beaming live from Yaoundé, and we shall be with you for the next 1 hour. Do not move a muzzle. You are welcome back. For our topic of today, we have 4 gentlemen in the studio. You know, it's a topic that has been making a lot of waves since Monday, where the traditional rulers openly declared their love for President Paul Biya as their candidate for the next mandate, as they express different reasons why they think President Paul Biya should be their candidate or the president of Cameroon for the next 7 years. And today we have in the studio, we have militants of the opposition party. We equally have a militant of the ruling party, as well as a political analyst that will try to make us understand the movement from the chiefs, the fonds, the lamidos from all over the country. I will begin right away from my right rather, with YACUBU, Blake YACUBU NSANGOU. I'm sorry that I always leave out your first name, Blake. Yeah, you've been here several times, and today you are here with us again to talk on this very important topic. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hyncenth, and good afternoon to all the viewers of Canal International, and special good afternoon to all the CPDM militants and sympathizers watching us all over the national territory. It is a pleasure for me being once again on your program. Thank
you so much. And by YACUBU, we have Dr. Pakam ISIDORE. I don't know if I got it very well, sir. Yes, Pakam ISIDORE. She is a political analyst, and he's a lecturer in moral and political philosophy. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you. I'm naturally happy to hear it, hoping that we will have an incubative moment to discuss pertinent issues with regard to the life of our community.
Thank you so much. And by my left, I have Mr. NJINE ELVIS BANEH. He's the Secretary General of the Popular Action Party, PAP, and he doubles as a member of the Union for Reconstruction. ELVIS, this is your first time on my set. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Hyncenth. As you rightly say, it's my first time being on your set. It's a pleasure honoring your invitation. A special good afternoon to all my co-panelists, and of course to all the viewers on Canal International. I also want to extend special greetings to His Royal Majesty Fon the 4th of Oku, as well as the entire Bui youth. You know, Bui people have always been very, very determinant when it comes to politics in this country, and I think 2025 is a year when we can encourage them the more to get themselves registered on the electoral list. Because just like our topic for today, we need to start thinking of every strategy possible to see into it that come October 2025, we do just what we are supposed to do as citizens of the country to ensure that change comes into this country.
Thank you so much. And the last guest on this panel, but not the least, we have Dr. GRIMBALD, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the SDF. Today is a NEC meeting, but he was able to squeeze out 1 hour to come and commune with us on the program today. You are welcome, Doc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chia. It's always a pleasure. It's my first time being here. And as you rightly said, I had to run out from the NEC meeting, and immediately after now, I'll be going back to the NEC meeting when an electoral year and no stone can be left unturned. Yeah,
especially given that it's the first NEC meeting of the year.
Exactly, it's the first NEC meeting of the year.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Before we come back to dive into our discussions, let's remind our viewers with this report.
After 5 hours of deliberations during the enlarged meeting of the Executive Bureau of the National Council of Traditional Rulers of Cameroon on January 27 in Yaoundé, the chiefs, Fons and Lamidos endorsed President Paul Biya as candidate for the 2025 presidential election.
The National Council of Cameroon Traditional Rulers, after thorough assessment of the political atmosphere in Cameroon, have decided to give their full and unflinching support to the candidacy of His Excellency Paul Biya in the forthcoming presidential election.
The over 250 traditional authorities from the 10 regions of the country outlined reasons for their support to the 92-year-old president.
Cameroon is a complex state which needs an experienced statesman at its helm. The experience, wisdom, patriotism, and foresight of President Paul Biya are undeniable and irrefutable assets and qualities for our country in this increasingly unsettled world.
Presiding over the come-together, the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, receives the signed memo from the traditional custodians for onward transmission.
Je voudrais vous rassurer que je ne vais pas dormir avec ces documents. Voici vos documents. Je vais les transmettre. Je vais les transmettre à son Excellence, M. Paul Biya, ce jour, pour qu'il puisse recevoir votre message, vos bénédictions et votre engagement républicain.
It was also an occasion to present the new Bureau of the National Council with His Majesty Guy Zomotsala as President.
You're welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is 360 Degrees, and as we begin the deliberations here, we shall be having the reaction of Professor Maurice Kamto, the National President of the CRM, in the course of this program. ELVIS, let me begin with you. How did you perceive the news that traditional rulers of Cameroon are endorsing Paul Biya as a candidate for the 2025 elections?
Well, I think personally I would tell that to me it simply demonstrates failure on the part of the traditional rulers. Okay. Because we know that traditionally speaking, our Fons and chiefs are people who are not supposed to be partisan. It doesn't consider the fact that as citizens they can vote in an election, which is something private. Yeah. But when to openly come out and take a stance and endorse a particular individual as opposed to others, I say it shows a sign of failure on the part of the traditional rulers, because that is not supposed to be part of what they are supposed to do as traditional rulers. Okay. We understand that they are part of, they are auxiliaries to administration, but being auxiliaries to administration doesn't mean that they become partisan to the point of publicly, because if we go back to the grass fields, for instance, where most of us do come from, you will understand that a traditional ruler, his subjects are all his children. Now, if A has to be of the ruling party and B is of the opposition, and he outrightly comes out to take the stance defending one of them or supporting back one of them, then it means that they are failing, because by so doing, they are rather strong to bring in some sort of chaos and instability into the society, rather than being those people who assemble their children together and try to mediate and ensure that peace generally reigns. Secondly, it simply tells us that there is a lack of democracy in this country, because typically speaking, it is not in the interest of the people for our traditional rulers to do what they just did. Because you understand with me that they are supposed even to be more of play an advisory role to administration. And when I talk about play an advisory role here, what do I mean? There are certain actions taken by political leaders or appointed officials that the traditional were supposed to be the ones to caution them, let them understand that this or that move cannot or should not be an appropriate move to take. But when they are the ones that come out to do what they did, like we saw of recent, I tell you, it's simply out of place. But one thing I would like to tell our viewers is that to me, it was even a non-event because in Cameroon, we have no less than 10 to 13,000 traditional rulers. And we are talking about maybe about 200 or 250 who gathered in Yaoundé. And when you even look at the final document that was signed, there are just about 12 of them. It even tells you that the traditional, even those who were present, they actually even dissociated themselves from endorsing President Paul Biya. So they are just, the system is just trying to use this maybe to counter what the bishops have been doing already by calling on Cameroonians to massively stand and register to make sure that they bring in change to the country, and knowing that the bishops or the clergy are no longer with or are not with the system, they are trying to use traditional rulers. But even at that, the traditional rulers in their entirety, I want to think, are not even with the regime in place because they have understood that we have come to a time when change in this country must become something effective. Okay.
Doc, were you surprised with that action?
Well, in the context of Cameroon, I was not surprised, but highly disappointed. Because what just happened is not the role of traditional leaders. You see, our ancient spiritual, moral, and traditional ways have been watered down by this heartless and irresponsible pursuit of material and pecuniary benefits on the part of our traditional leaders. A traditional leader is a custodian of the culture, but more importantly, a custodian of the ancient spiritual and moral ways of the people in his care. And that is why traditional leaders are not supposed to be part of partisan politics. But they have the right to express themselves through the ballot box. They have the right to vote who they think will be better as a leader in Cameroon, but they are not supposed to involve themselves in partisan politics because this is partisan politics. They are not supposed to take sides. They are supposed to remain neutral. Otherwise, it is going to create a lot of conflict between them and their subjects. And that is why in our traditions now, 99% of traditional leaders are no longer respected. You see how their subjects quarrel with them on the streets on a daily basis, even fight with them to the extent of removing their cap and throwing it to the ground and smashing it. You see, the traditional leader does not have that power to curse or to correct that subject because he has lost his spirituality, his pure spirituality. When you abandon the mission you were given and you follow pecuniary benefits, that is what happens to your dignity. And that is why traditional leaders are instead supposed to defend their people. When traditional leaders come out and speak openly, which I even doubt, and speak openly in support of President Paul Biya. When you
say you doubt, what do you mean? You didn't hear them speaking?
Doubt in the sense that out of 250 of them, in the end, only 12 signatures were there. Let me tell you something. There is a document
circulating with the signatories of all the traditional rulers.
Let me tell you something. Many of these traditional, there are some that I know. I don't claim to know many of them. There are some that I know. I am telling you, many of them, they are against the bad governance in this country. And all what the Minister of Territorial Administration is doing is forcing them to do what they are doing. I don't want to talk much about Senator Chafa who spoke. I know him to an extent. I will not talk about it here. I am telling you, it is a disappointment. It is a disgrace. It is a humiliation. And you see how the Minister of Territorial Administration is so happy to say that traditional leaders are supporting President Paul Biya. Traditional leaders and bishops are like prophets. And that is why prophets were not kings. Prophets will come and speak, but kings will rule. Why is it that Bishops do not have the right to say what they are saying, but traditional leaders have the right. We have understood this mafia going on at the state level.
Okay, those are the views of the two opposition party militants. Let me get to the political analysts. What is your reading of all this?
Yes, observing the outing of the traditional rulers, I think that it is but normal that they should be apolitical or they should not participate in party politics.
Okay.
From the very day that politicians or traditional rulers in this country were paid by the government, that was the very day that they became politicians. The compromise started. And compromising their right, you cannot also say that in a normal democracy, they have the right to manifest their democratic rules. Okay. It's a democratic right for them to come out and say, I belong here or not. But it becomes bad because as custodian of tradition, they are not supposed to take side. They have already taken side. And we, the indigents, we never came out that government is paying first-class funds. It pays second class and third class. No indigent come out to say that, no, in our village, our fund will not take this money. We will take care of our fund. But today that the funds who are actually hungry are going now behind party politics, we are the same people coming out to say that funds should not participate in politics. So you see that their right as citizens have been compromised. Their right as traditional rulers have been compromised. So they have to go in for their own interest.
That means that to an extent the population they govern are partly responsible for this?
Are partly responsible for that. Okay. Because if they say that this Cameroon government, our funds should not be political. They should not participate in party politics. And now, the very day that this very government stood up to say we are paying first class fund 250,000, second class fund 150, and third class 50. These very indigents in their community were supposed to say, no, you are not supposed to pay us, because the moment you pay our fund, they become compromised. Somebody who is paying you will dictate what you do and what you should not do. So the ruling government have all that it takes for them to be able to manipulate the politics to gain favor and gain the ground so that they can be able to win. Even if you are the one in power, any political party is aimed at ascending to power. There's no political party that wants to go to power and come down. Okay. Everybody wants to cling to power. No matter the age of President Paul Biya. So everybody wants to be there. Even you and I go to power, we would like to remain there. So he's using all his strategy to remain in power. So we should blame ourselves for not taking care of our funds.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, NSANGOU YACUBU. That, I think, Monday, was it a joyous moment for you to see that the custodians of tradition, they are backing your candidate?
Yes, Mr. Hyncenth, I would like to first give kudos to these traditional authorities who came out in their numbers, because when they talked of few, no, all the first class chiefs were there.
Not all.
All the first class chiefs
not
were there.
All. The fund of Com, who is first class, was not there, for example. Just
anyway,
maybe a majority were there.
Majority.
Yeah, a majority were there.
High majority, and when we talked of traditional rulers of caliber, and the most known ones in this country were represented. And then the traditional rulers are the true owners of this country, because before the arrival of the white men with all these, with the bishops, they came, all of them came after. The traditional rulers are the ones, are the true owners of this country. Okay. When they come out with this type of vision, because I'll call it a vision from the ancestors, to ask the President of the Republic to go in for the presidential election, it is because they are aware of the fact that we are in a complex situation, and they will not allow our country to be manipulated by those. Because, Mr. Hyncenth, when you look at the opposition parties, most of them, they don't have any political program. Their only political program is that the President of the Republic has been there for 100 years, the President of the Republic is 200 years old, etc. Is that a political program? And you ask Cameroonians to vote for you because the CPDM has been there for 100 years, that is not a political program. Okay. We are in a complex situation. And at this time in point, traditional rulers cannot fold their arms and observe their people take the wrong direction. I believe that they took their responsibilities in order to tell their people that, because when the destabilization will come, like what we saw in the far north, not only the population will suffer with the terrorist attack, the whole community and the chiefs are also suffering. In the northwest, the same thing. It means that at a certain time, they have to come out like what they did the other day, take their responsibilities, and then ask their people to do the right choice. And the right choice here, whether we like it or not, is the President of the Republic. Because when we look at the political arena, the political opposition parties we are having today, we have, none of them has really shown up a clear and clean political program that can be followed by the people, that can really help Cameroons to come out from this difficulty.
Okay, but can we say these people were talking, or these traditional rulers were talking on behalf of their people? Is that a wish of their people?
Mr. Hyncenth, we are not in a, when we talk of traditional rulers,
yes,
these are, in those days, these are kings.
Yes,
it means that kings do not rule according to the will of the people.
Okay.
No, they bring up a message from the ancestors. They tell the people.
They impose on the people.
They impose on the people the direction they have to take.
Okay.
And normally at this time in point, this is what they are telling the people to do. And the direction they are taking, I believe that it is the right direction, and that is what the people should follow. Because we are being a fond of the Biya has already been honored by all these traditional rulers. He is the fond of funds. When you go to the northwest region, in the Bamileke area, he also goes in the Lamidas. All of these ancestors, he has been blessed by all of them. I don't know why reiterating, because I will call this reiterating. It is not something new. Reiterating the support will bring up any issue. Okay,
gentlemen, I see you itching to react, but before we come back to continue, let's take the reaction of Professor Maurice Kamto on this very subject.
A lot of confusion in our country. I don't blame them. I don't blame the traditional rulers. Why? Because they mislead them by saying that you are, they say in French, you are auxiliaire de l'administration. Yes, you are auxiliary of to the administration, right? But they are auxiliary to the administration, not auxiliary to the elections. They are not auxiliary to a candidate. So that's where the mistake is there. Are they speaking on behalf of their fellow villagers? I doubt it. So the government is putting the traditional ruler in a very bad situation, because many of them will have a lot of difficulty back home. A lot of difficulties. And I feel very sorry, because it's bad for them. But at the end of the day, you talk of that special group. Why did they feel it necessary to organize a different meeting with that group of traditional rulers from let's say from the far north and Adamawa? Why? Are they special? Are they different from the other traditional rulers? That is what I call petty politics. It's a petty politics. It's not. It's lack of, not vision, just a vision for the whole country. Okay, the only thing I can say here in conclusion to that point is that everybody is free to have his own choice, including the traditional rulers. As citizens, they are free to launch whatever appeal they want, provided that they don't make mistake. Comes the day of the election. That's the red line. You are choosing your candidate, fine and good. You want the current president to remain for eternity in power, fine and good. But make sure that you go and cast your own vote, and your only vote, because it doesn't entitle you to make a pressure or to do, I don't know, whatever, to drag somebody to go and vote for a candidate he doesn't want to vote for. That is the red line. Because if you cross that red line, you are not the traditional ruler anymore, because you don't rule anything. That's the message. Let them do whatever they want to do. But like I said, I don't blame them too much, because they are misleading them. Frankly speaking, not all of them. Some of them know exactly what they are doing, because those meetings were orchestrated by by some of so-called traditional rulers we all know. And in fact, they are traditional nothing. But it's not because when you are a traditional ruler, you should act and behave like a traditional ruler. You don't mix up everything. Let them respect themselves, and they will have all the respect. I myself, I have a big respect, a huge respect for the traditional rulers. Do not make a mistake. I have a huge respect for them. But when you start losing your own respect by yourself, what do you expect from the others? That's the problem. What are they going to tell their fellow villagers? What are they going to tell their sons and daughters, their children, who have no job, whose living is a misery? We don't have roads, we don't have potable water, we don't have power, but still you say we have the best candidate, the best president, and so on and so forth. And that is true. Don't complain anymore.
Yeah, welcome back. That was Maurice Kamto, the president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement. Gentlemen, before I come to you, let me get back to Doc. When all this is happening, like they are trying to let us understand that the traditional ruler is there for all. What becomes of the relationship between traditional rulers and militants of other parties in their various fondoms or chiefdoms or lamidas and others?
I think the relationship between traditional rulers and their subjects and the other militants in political parties was long ruptured. Okay. Long ruptured in the sense that in our community, for example, in Northwest and Southwest, our funds do no longer stay in the palaces, chased away by their own children because of insecurity. So, but
we saw a fund they're reading out, and maybe we don't have the integral part of the declaration, but he was very bent on the fact that Cameroon is enjoying a very peaceful atmosphere. That's why
of course, you know, Cameroon enjoyed a very peaceful atmosphere according to them. To me, we are enjoying graveyard silence or negative peace, where people are condemned by necessity to be quiet, meanwhile they are suffering from injuries. For example, I'm from Northwest. I've experienced a lot of difficult situations with the people there. The funds do not stay in the palaces. Some stay in other communities, and then the crown people, they become comedians. So I don't expect any solid or reasonable relationship between the funds and the people or their sons and daughters that belong to other political parties. Because if you are outrightly saying that we endorse Bia because of the experience, but Bia born with experience, no. Because even the CPDM people used to say that it is our natural candidate. In normal democracy, can somebody be natural? Because anybody who delves into power means that you also have ambition that one day you should be head of state. It therefore means that even in the CPDM, there are people who should be aiming that as Bia's 42 years in power, at least I can also come as a candidate. Okay. But saying that it's a natural candidate to me is a political blunder, because in democracy there's nothing natural. Because natural means that only death will take him away from there, which is not normal. Okay. And I see that with the other political party, I don't want to call the word opposition, because opposition to me have a negative connotation. I want to say the other political parties. Because in America we have Democrat and Republican. But in Cameroon, America have more than close to 200 citizens. But in Cameroon, we are just about 200 million. 30 million people with close to 250 political parties, which are political distractions.
We are about 360 political parties in Cameroon.
360, we see that one. So each group of a million people or 900 and something people have a political party. We mean that what is a political distraction, because yesterday I saw how 3 political parties also gave in their support to Bia. What was their main motive of creating that political party? You now question the credibility of political parties in Cameroon. Because if I create a political party, I should have a manifesto, I should have an ambition, and my objective is to attain to power and right the wrongs of those that I criticize. But if I create a political party and tomorrow I say I give my support to this person, therefore it was a clear manipulation and
maybe the visions are matching.
The vision if the visions are matching, why then create a political party? You simply be a sympathizer of that party.
Okay, thank you so much. ELVIS, when this is happening, How discouraging is it to the opposition? He doesn't want to use the word opposition, but let me use it, to the opposition party militants that you are?
I'm sorry to disappoint you,
okay,
but I don't think that such moves or maneuvers to discourage any person, the ones you call of the opposition.
Okay.
And maybe to want to join him, there's something I would like to let us understand here. That I would rather say, in the context of politics, it's true when we talk about opposition, we think of maybe a certain political formation, a party, an individual who airs out his views against the regime in place. But I want Cameroonians, and especially the youth of Cameroon, to understand that opposition actually per se does not mean you belong to a particular formation or whatsoever thing.
Okay.
Being an opposition simply means that you do not agree with the system in place.
Voilà.
The moment you do not agree with them, you are already an opposant to them. You see? So that is to tell you that this issue of always saying opposition in Cameroon, there is no opposition, it's because the regime in place is trying to play on the word opposition to distract Cameroonians. Cameroonians in their majority are not comfortable with the regime in place. It means that all of us, we are of the opposition. Now, it no longer matters whether you belong to a particular political party or not. The most important thing is you go out there, you register, get your voter's card, and you wait for October 2025 to do what matters. So they are not discouraging us because, irrespective of what the chiefs and funds just did, for those of them who did it, the truth is that they are not the ones who will determine to their subjects what will happen. Those of us who are from the Northwest, we know that today those funds do not have any they lost their respect long ago. And many of some anyway, and many of them, like some we saw reading here, are people who live in Yaoundé, who cannot dare go back to read that piece of trash in the Northwest. You see? So to me, they cannot, and they are not, and they will never discourage Cameroonians, because Cameroonians have become more than ever before conscious as to the stakes, and they are determined to see change come. But I would like to just try to point out one or two things. When Doctor was talking, he mentioned something about funds that are being paid by the state, and so from every direction. No, I want to think it is not because our people have abandoned their funds that the funds and they are being paid by the state. It's because they are greedy. Because even after being paid by the state, their subjects still contribute for their feeding, for their transportation, and for everything. No, it may be some, but what we know is that back there in the grass fields, communities take care of their traditional rulers, from shelter to transportation to everything. Now, for a foreign who decides, therefore, to betray his people because of an extra 250 that the state gives him, it's a matter of greed. It's not a matter of abandonment by the people. Secondly, I am surprised, but I understand when I hear my young brother YACUBU say political part of the opposition do not have a social program. What he doesn't want to tell Cameroonians is that their own social program they have is intimidation and maneuvers like the one we see on TV. If not, can he tell Cameroonians what they have had as an agenda for the past 43 years, apart from slogans every year when there is an election? Nous sommes au bout du tunnel, we are at this, la force de l'expérience. That is what to them they have as a political program. Intimidations, maneuvers, and all whatnot. And he says, Mr. Biapol, the chiefs, the ancestors. It's unfortunate that after 43 years in power, a leader who is supposed to be a good leader has not been able in 43 years to prepare the next person who will take over the baton from him. And they think that at 92, he must still be the one to stay there in the name of experience. Just like Doctor was saying, I say it is a real problem. And when you hear my young comrade of the CPDM talk about chiefs are not supposed to seek the people's will or represent them because they impose, you understand that he's going just in the logic of the CPDM.
The chiefs, they speak with the ancestors and they know what is good for the citizens.
Unfortunately, my dear brother, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Just a minute.
It's unfortunate. Yes. I say it tells you that he's just going in the logic of the CPDM, where everything is about dictating to the people, irrespective of whether you accept or you do not accept. You must just take it the way it is. But just to land, my brother, the opposition in Cameroon is you. The opposition in Cameroon is myself, and no one can intimidate or stop us or discourage us from registering and voting for change in 2025.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc. Despite what he says, the moves are on. How now do you, the opposition that you are, or that we are, that he is trying to say we are, how do we counter the moves? How do you counter the moves?
We, opposition parties, political parties have political programs, contrary to what my colleague from the CPDM is saying. For example, the Social Democratic Front, our political philosophy is social democracy, and our party manifesto is imprinted in our constitution when the SDF was launched in 1990. In 1990, 26th of May 1990. It is there. Maybe because he doesn't care to study them. And when I see young people like him in the CPDM, I bleed. Because I don't know what he is doing there. The CPDM is misleading young people like him.
But he has a choice to be there.
Yeah, he has a choice to be there, but it is unfortunate because when a young man is saying what he is saying now, it is a danger to the future of this country. And that is why I don't understand the interest of young people like him in the CPDM, because I don't know what they learn from there. Opposition parties.
Remember, CPDM has an academy where they train their young politicians.
If they are training politicians and future leaders, then they should do so in all intellectual honesty. Yeah. Because it is intellectual dishonesty to come and say that traditional leaders are not supposed to listen to their people. It is a lie. The voice of the people is the voice of God. Okay. The voice of the people is the voice of God. Traditional leaders are there to represent the interests of their people and defend their people. And just to add to what he was saying, contrary to what Doctor is saying, it is not true. The people have always been taking care of their traditional leaders. All, not some. And if these traditional leaders are now complaining, it is because of the word he used, greed. It is because of greed. Okay. I, for one, have been a youth president in my village. I never go to the palace without asking contributions from youth, without going with jugs of wine, with food, and so on. It is so. It is our culture. And so the palace can never, ever lack. It is greed, I'm telling you. And let me tell you, any person that is honest in his heart has nothing to fear. And if many of these traditional leaders had clean hands, like those that have clean hands and are in their village, they have nothing to fear, because all of those in their village, they are their children. Okay. And so this is what we should know about, this is what traditional leaders should know about their role. If a traditional leader for 1 year has not been in the village, has not poured libation, has not moved to the sacred site and prayed on them and blessed them, is not taking care of his people, is not concerned with the welfare of his people, what do you want the people to do? The people will naturally revolt. And when traditional leaders come out and they are calling on Biya as their candidate, when the people are complaining of insecurity, they are complaining of hunger, they are complaining of underdevelopment, what are you expecting from the people? In other words, when the father has decided to abandon his responsibility of raising the child, what do you expect of the child? How do you expect the child to go? Okay, thank you so much. Before I come to you, please, we have a series of messages here. Let me just take one. The most dangerous Cameroonians are not the ones who have declared their candidates, but those who have decided to be silent. Some of the chiefs who signed that memo will not even vote for the party in question. That is coming from, they say many of them did so simply because of fear of victimization. That's coming from Jacob from Bamenda. Yes, I saw you itching to react.
I would like to come back first of all to what Doctor was saying, which is very pertinent, because when he talks of the payment, what they are saying is only relevant for the grassfield. Because yes, in the grassfield, Northwest and West region, people really contribute for their traditional authorities and etc. But
what about the Tigran North?
In the Tigran North, in the center region, and the Sawa, is it the same thing like in the grassfield? I don't believe so. Okay. Yes, because the engagement people have for their traditional authorities in the grassfield globally, West region and Northwest, is not the same like in the 8 other.
The degree may not be the same.
Please.
Let him land. Please go on.
Please. We have here in the center.
Please let him land.
Here in the center.
Let him land. I'll give you time to talk.
Here in the center region, in the Sawa land and in the Grand North, let me tell you, it's not the same like in the grass field. That is a reality, whether we like it or not. Secondly, coming back in what I was saying is that what the chiefs had just announced goes on the same wavelength with the reality, with the will of the people. Because if you go on the floor, you start counting militants and sympathizers of the CPDM, you come to realize that the majority of the population are CPDM militants. Why is it that when the chief will go and then confirm the choice of the people, it is not an imposition, because when you go to the Grand North, when you go in the Grand North, in the three northern regions, you come to realize that the CPDM militants are majority. The same thing like here in the center and the Sawaland and etc. The CPDM militants are majority. Those are facts. We have gone in for several elections, and if you like, you go down for a data collection, you come to realize that in all the 360 subdivisions or all the villages of this country, CPDM militants and sympathizers are there. And then I would like to answer to the SDF representative, because he was wondering how a young man can be a member of a CPDM. Let me tell him that in the CPDM we have what we call in politics political training. Political parties have to train, give the political education to citizens, and that is what the CPDM has been doing with the academy that is managed by Professor ELVIS Ngolengole, where the education, because when we look at nowadays, young ladies, young men are not interested in politics, but through the work that the CPDM has been doing, we have a youth brand which is very vibrant, which is very strong, and then contrary to what they think the CPDM is already dying down. Unfortunately, the CPDM has come to stay.
Okay, maybe before I take the mic from you, please, before I take the mic from you, can President Biya's royal endorsement be seen as a sign of desperation or a show of strength?
It is a show of, it is strength. Okay. Yes, because it really shows that. Because presently, let's all be d'accord that he has not yet declared the candidate.
Of course.
Yes. And then, according to the law of the internal rules of the CPDM, yes, the national president is the natural candidate. Okay. It has not, because when we talked of Dr. Isidore was talking that it is now a democratic. No, the text says that by the time you are the national president, the coming election, it means that if there is a convention for maybe tomorrow and a new national president is voted, at that time, that national president is automatically the candidate of the party for the coming presidential election.
Okay, thank you.
That is the
okay, thank you.
I wanted to
Doc, when all this is happening, what becomes of what is the fate of independent candidates who are supposed to have at least 30 signatories from each region, including the traditional rulers?
First class.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that the fate of independent candidate is actually gloomy, because if traditional rulers actually or outrightly give their support to the ruling president, it means that independent candidates might not even have their signature. Yeah. So their fate is hanging in the balance. And before I go off, I want to say, maybe my brothers misunderstood me. I said that the very day that this government started paying traditional rulers, that is the very day that they were compromised, and that was the very day that their subjects were supposed to rise up to say no, don't pay them or don't collect their
money. Which
many
did that you don't know.
If many did, you don't know. It was for the right at that moment, not now. That somebody is paying you, and we are now saying that not supposed to support the person because we claim that is our taxpayer money. But how many people benefit from it? So that was the very day we were supposed to stand up to say no. Our fund.
If the population decided to do as you said, their voices would have been heard.
Their voices would have been heard because the fund is for them, and it's representing them, and the government, as they say, is an auxiliary to administration.
That is why most of them have run out. Because they are subjects to them.
Since we are contributing to give to you, let me since we are contributing to give to you, we are the one taking care of you. Don't take anything from the government. If you take from the government, we will decide from our responsibility. That would have made some sense. But the moment they started collecting the money, and you people do not raise up the voice, and you say we are contributing to give the fund, how are you contributing when you receive from government and you are still?
But that is why I'm telling you that is why many of them have run and they are resident here and their subjects are no longer taking care of them. Okay. That's what I'm telling you. So how were they living before independence till now that they started giving them that money? How were they living? Because you say they are not the same in the grass-field land, in the sour land, in the Sudano-Sahelian. How were they living before this law of paying them came into place? They were living by their people.
Elvis, you have the mic, please.
Thank you very much. I still beg to say, Doc, that I still disagree with you on that point of payment. Being auxiliary to the administration, I don't have a problem with the administration paying them. But I'm saying it's not because I pay you that you should keep away your conscience and do what is wrong. Because you must support me because I'm giving you money.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that's what is happening.
But I say it's a matter of greed. It's not because of the money they are giving them. Secondly, let me land up. Secondly, when you look at the civil servants today, if you go by the fact that because the government pays for funds, they now have to support a particular candidate, you now understand why in our country they give the impression that once you are a civil servant, you vote for the CPDM. Because the state is paying you it is not the money of a particular candidate he's using from his own to pay you with.
That's the money of the taxpayer.
It is not you are a civil servant and you have a right to vote for any candidate of your choice. The last election, for instance, we saw official notes of services that were issued, conditioning civil servants to go to a particular area and vote for a particular party or a particular candidate. And that is why we say it is out of question. Coming back to the question when you were asking, Doc, for instance, it wasn't mine, but I want to say something on that.
Yes, the fate of the independent candidates at this point.
I would like to answer that question by rather saying that at this particular juncture, you know, those of us of the Union for Reconstruction who are backing up Barrister Akeremona, we are rather calling on Cameroonians as a whole. You see, let us all bring our forces together and see how we can work to ensure that there's change in this country. Because we know the way the regime is functioning, and we know that all of these maneuvers are going to continue to ensure that many more aspirants are frustrated. But the frustration from the regime are signs of a dying horse. What I would rather say here is that political aspirants, political leaders, maybe who already see their ambitions frustrated by the regime, they should rather keep aside. People should keep aside ego. People should keep aside pride and think about the nation first, and think about the population first, and think about what legacy we all intend to leave for our children. I always like to say, I have been, Mr. Biapo has been the president of my life till today, and I deny that he continues to be the president of my children's own life. And so, even if I had an intention of becoming a presidential candidate, some other person can sometimes win through you. It must not always be you. There are some people, for instance, who had the possibility of becoming candidates. They did not make it. But this time around, if the chances are no longer the same for you, you can also back another candidate, and then together we see what we can do for our country. If we see the way the CPDM militants are agitating, and of course the worst part of it, we're talking about democracy when we just started here with the funds. You see, just even the fact that a state minister acts as though he's a minister of a political party is already a problem.
That's a problem.
Because what we see Minna doing is totally undemocratic. Because he acts under his casket as Minat and not under his casket as militant of the CPDM, which is already a problem. But YACUBU will not say that.
No, he came there at
So what we are saying here is that independent candidates, or even those that even still have the eligibility from their own political parties, I think what we need to do is converge our forces, work together as one, back up a unique candidate, and then together we see how to lead this country come October 2025. Yeah,
Doc, many of you have said 2025 will not be business as usual, but then when you see the moves like the one of yesterday where political parties are already coming out to say, oh, our candidate is President Paul Biya, do you think anything is going to...
It's really disheartening when I see that happening among us. The opposition, I'll go in the same light as the representative of PAP to say that political parties in the opposition need to learn to come together, join forces, and fight this regime that has bred mistrust and bad governance for over the years. We really need to come together. The problem of greed is a serious problem. Greed is something that affects all of us as humans opposition political parties need to shun that greed. And if we have to join forces, then we have to do so within the norms. The problem with the Cameroon opposition is that each person declares his candidature, each person declares his own candidate and takes the decision unilaterally. That is the problem. We don't want to come together and discuss the norms and the formality of bringing a single candidate. And I want to say that in this light, the SDF party, based on our history, were the most experienced in this. Because if each and everyone is declaring their candidature without coming together, you see, in a forum to discuss how to select a candidate, it will never be. Okay. And then secondly, the government in power, through the Ministry of Territorial Administration, is doing everything possible to stop that from happening. And that is why you now have from 369 with 11 parties that were recently signed, we now have 380 political parties, many of whom are satellite parties, many of whom have been created by the CPDM, and that is why they see no problem declaring President Paul Biya as their candidate. It was the traditional chiefs yesterday. Tomorrow it will be G20, which may increase to G500, and so on. That is a problem. And we opposition, we have to know that.
YACUBU, yesterday, for example, we saw one faction of the UPC endorsing Paul Biya at Minat. We saw one faction of the PCRN, led by the founding father, Robert Kona, coming out to say they are standing behind President Paul Biya. Now, we have parties that are divided, some backing your candidate and some with another candidate. Is that still, like he was saying, is it still the CPDM machinery maybe to...
Mr. Hyncenth, I don't know why firstly people are disturbed by the candidacy of our candidate, because instead of concentrating on their own political party and choosing the best candidate for their, it is like you can be playing a match Cameroon against Cote d'Ivoire. Instead of Cote d'Ivoire being concentrated on their own team, they are instead looking at Cameroon team that, please do not put Babensang Abubakar. They are not the one to tear the CPDM. But now those should represent our own political party.
Yeah, I get that. But now I'm talking about the different factions that are.
And the different factions, we are not. There is democracy even in political parties, and then we are not responsible of the internal disputes people are having in their political parties. Like in the SDF, the problem of the SDF today came up since the creation of the CRM, because you know most of their background was in the Bamleke area in the West region. Most of them with the creation of the CRM, like in the Bambotos and most of the councils that were managed by the SDF became destabilized when they created the CRM, being it in the Littoral or in the West region. Just to take that few examples, it is not a problem of, it is not, the CPDM is not responsible of the.
So your hands are open in case of any factions and
anybody like him, he can decide. He's a militant of the says SDF, he can decide tomorrow and say, okay, the best candidate is Paul Biya. We will not deny.
I just want to say here that. Contrary to what my brother keeps saying, nobody is disturbed about this Mr. Biya being the candidate.
Because that is what
no, I've not said so. What we are saying is that we are not surprised that you have your candidate, but you will not allow other political parties to do their own things. You keep going out with trying to intimidate people, trying to, for everyone means to repress other people. That is the problem. That is the problem.
You are forcing people to problem with your
candidate. Exactly, that's the problem. Let him be alive.
It means that our traditional rulers are
please, YACUBU, please.
What we are saying is this. If you take the Union for Reconstruction, we are very comfortable with Barisakere Muna. Cameroonians are progressively joining on the alliance. Are we together? And we are moving slowly but steadily towards 2025. Like what we are saying as Cameroonians, that we are not surprised, and I made a statement here on this platform today, that what we see, the agitations, especially coming from Minat, are signs of the last kicks of a dying horse. They know that after October 2025, you guys are going to quit the presidency. And so they want to do everything possible to make sure they keep pinching onto something. And that is why you talk about democracy and that you are not responsible for what is happening in other political parties. Have you told Cameroonians why is it that when there is a small clash within a political party, that's when Mina appears and will always back up that person who eventually becomes a supporter to the CPDM candidate? It is a strategy to divide the people, you see, but a strategy where, like I said, Cameroonians have understood and will not fall for that again. Why? Because the real opposition, I have said, what you have failed to understand is that the real opposition is not a political party. The real opposition is not Mr. Njang of the PAP or even Batonia Akeremuna of the Union for Reconstruction. The real opposition are the masses who are fed up with your system, and they are now currently registering massively because they know who they are going to vote in October 2025. Okay. That is where the real problem lies, and it is a fight that your regime will not be able to fight because the people will go in there to vote and you will never be there to intimidate them.
Okay, please, Doc, at this point in time, with all this happening, what should you as a political scientist, what should the opposition, though you don't like the word, what should they be doing at this point in time?
I think that they should be able to come together and then market out their political manifesto so that the common man can be able to buy and share the view in order to support them, because if they don't really come together in a coalition or solicit each other and then come out with the best candidate, it will still be difficult. If we still have this kind of divide and rule system where this one endorses this one endorses this, it will be difficult to combat this very regime. So it is but normal for the political parties to come together and then maybe form a union, a force, whereby they will come out with a very good political manifesto, market it out to the people, and the people will buy their ideologies and come out massively to vote for them. Okay, Doc, you have the last minute of this program. We are almost moving out. Your last word.
Yes, my last word is in the same light, as Doctor has said. I am calling on all the opposition parties to learn how to come together, join forces in order to beat this regime in the upcoming elections. And that we should not disperse our political energy. We should not waste our political energy because there's a lot of work to do. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. We are drawing the curtains of the program here. If you miss out on anything, the rebroadcast of this program will be on Wednesday at 10:30 p.m. And till we meet again next Saturday, if you are still to get your voters registration card, you have to do that as soon as possible because there is no specific deadline for the closure of the voters registration process. Whenever the elections will be convened, the registration process will stop immediately. So till we meet again next Saturday, stay blessed. Bye-bye.